that is the destruction of the Armada, which has huge implications. A, Spain is now weak. And so it will cost Spain a lot to rebuild this Spanish Armada, and Spain will no longer be a dominant naval power, right? We're going to see new dominant naval powers emerge. And so the 17th century, the 1600s, will see the Dutch, the British, and the French be the dominant overseas colonists and mercantilists, mercantile empires that are created. Okay, so that's a huge change. Just, you know, normally Spain and Portugal start out as the dominant overseas countries, but they don't remain it, right? And this destruction of the Spanish Armada it helps explain why we see this transition to French, Dutch, and English overseas strength. The second big change as a result of the Spanish Armada is it secures Protestantism in England. And therefore, this is a huge blow to the to the Counter-Reformation, to this attempt to get rid of Protestantism and to restore Europe unified under one church. And it's a huge victory for Protestantism because now a bulwark or a major hub of the Protestant faith is secure and protected. Yes?
Okay. When Elizabeth went to help the Protestants in Netherlands, does that mean that she sent like military, or she just sent like money, or what did she do?
This is a good question. She certainly sent financial support, and I think at some point she actually sent military advisors over to help.
So why wouldn't like he just attack the military advisors in Netherlands instead of attacking her in England?
Well, he thought A, he could be successful because he had this armada that he thought would win, and B, just attacking the couple, you know, English people over in the Netherlands doesn't resolve the problem. The problem is you've got this foreign leader who's sending this aid to these to the Dutch. If you can cut off that aid to the Dutch rebellion, then that would hurt the Dutch rebellion and allow you to defeat them. I mean, what prompts this invasion or this attempted invasion of England in the first place is that the Spanish are not able to defeat the Dutch. They're losing, right? And they basically lose control of that northern territory. And so the Union of Utrecht is basically, it's this union of 7 provinces that's independent from Spain, that fights off Spanish influence. And that becomes what's known as the United Provinces or the Dutch Republic. Okay, and it's a separate country, virtually. Now, there's a peace deal, there's treaties, and then the wars off and on between the Dutch Republic and Spain until 1648 when it's permanent, right, that they will be independent. Okay, so that's what goes on there. France, we've got the same political dynamic, nobles versus king. The nobles there are Huguenot, many nobles, about some historians estimate about half the nobles are Huguenots, which is way more than the French population as a whole. And the king is obviously Catholic. And so there's these tensions, there's political tensions between nobles and king, as well as religious tensions between Huguenots, or Calvinists in France, and Catholics. So the St. Bartholomew Day Massacre is, I think there's 5 or 6 civil wars. They're off and on for about 40 years. And the most memorable event in these civil wars is the St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre, which is authorized by Catherine de' Medici. And basically on this day, the Huguenots are gathering in Paris for the wedding of a Huguenot noble, and Catherine authorizes their executions. And so they're all, in the middle of the night, they're stormed, and they have, they're captured, and many of them are killed. Thousands of people are killed. Okay, so, well, why does this happen? Well, Catherine herself is ruling on behalf of her young sons. And so she feels pressure from actually more extreme Catholics to take decisive action against those Huguenots. So there's some Catholic nobles that want the throne for themselves and that are basically suggesting that they should inherit the throne instead of this weak monarch. And then there's Huguenots, right, that are on the other side. And so there's a lot of tensions here. Now, if you remember, Henry II Henry III is Catherine's son, and he's murdered by an assassin. And the next Henry in line, Henry of the family, I think it's Henry of Guise, Guise, I think is this Catholic family that is next in line. And so he's also assassinated by a rival faction. And so then Henry of Navarre, a Huguenot, becomes the next king. And Henry of Navarre takes the title Henry the Fourth. Now, a Huguenot in charge, this is unbelievable. How could this be? France is mostly Catholic. And Paris especially is mostly Catholic. Now, Henry of Navarre had survived the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre by converting to Catholicism that day. And then, once he left, he became a Huguenot again. So now that he's king, he faces all this opposition from majority Catholic France. And remember, the tensions between both sides want the other gone, right? There's violence, they're burning churches, right? The Huguenots are running through and, massacring or, burning Catholic buildings or desecrating statues and things like that. And the Catholics likewise are responding with violence. So there is this tension across France. So Henry of Navarre, the Huguenot, decides that the only way he'll be able to restore or become a king and control France is by converting to Catholicism. And so he converts to Catholicism again. And the famous line that he may or may not have said was, "Paris is worth a mass." In other words, being able to return to Paris, the capital of France, is worth a mass. It's worth becoming a Catholic. And so he becomes a Catholic. Now, the Huguenots are outraged, right? They thought he was going to be a Huguenot king. They were hoping he'd reform the Catholic Church to be Calvinist and get rid of Catholicism. And so therefore they're disappointed, and now they're afraid for their security. And so in order to try to end these tensions, this fighting between the two sides, Henry IV issues the Edict of Nantes in 1598.